In a significant diplomatic maneuver, Iranian President Mahmoud Abbas presented a three-point list of conditions on Wednesday, March 11, 2026, that must be met for the war with the US and Israel to end. According to state news agencies, the conditions are: first, recognition of Iran's legitimate rights; second, compensation for war damages; and third, strong international guarantees against any future aggression. President Abbas stated that Iran is committed to regional peace, provided the United States accepts these terms. These conditions are overwhelming and, in essence, signal that Iran believes it is currently winning the war while the United States and Israel are losing. The first condition, recognition of Iran's legitimate rights, is a broad and powerful demand. It implies that the US and Israeli invasion and occupation of Iranian territory are illegal, violating both Iran's sovereignty and international law. Under this condition, the US would have to accept that Iran's ballistic missile program and its production of nuclear materials are legitimate rights of a sovereign state, permissible under international law for self-defense. This aligns with the Iranian leadership's long-standing view that it has the right to strengthen its military power. Furthermore, this condition encompasses the recognition of Iran's economic rights. It would necessitate the lifting of all sanctions imposed by the international community and the United Nations. Iran has been under various sanctions for nearly 20 years, initially imposed over concerns about its nuclear program. From Tehran's perspective, these sanctions are a severe violation of its legitimate rights. This demand also serves as a rebuke to the characterization of Iran by the US and its allies. By insisting on its legitimate rights, Iran is rejecting the label of a terrorist regime or a state sponsor of terror. It is asserting that its actions in the region, including support for its allies, are within its rights. Through this message, the Islamic Republic of Iran is telling the world that it is a legitimate unmember state with the inherent right to protect its regime and its sovereignty, regardless of internal or external criticisms. In short, Iran is demanding its full rights and standing in all international forums. The second condition, compensation for damages, is Iran's way of framing the US and Israeli military actions as aggression. It argues that the bombing of nuclear sites, missile production facilities, weapons storage depots, and public and private infrastructure constitutes a violation of the UN Charter. President Abbas is demanding that the aggressor pay reparations to the victim, not just for damage to national property, but also for the loss of Iranian lives. This demand also implicitly extends to other nations in the region. Iran has launched retaliatory missile and drone strikes against countries it deems to be launching pads for the US and its allies, targeting military bases, oil refineries, and even civilian infrastructure like airports. By demanding compensation for the damage it has suffered, Iran is asserting that its retaliatory actions are acts of self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. It is a claim that it has the legal right to use force against any nation that allows its territory to be used for attacks on Iran. The third condition, strong international guarantees against future aggression, is a demand for a fundamental shift in the geopolitical landscape. Iran wants the world to bear witness to the end of this war, which it anticipates will result in US defeat. It seeks a binding, global assurance that the US will not invade again, effectively outlawing future military action against its sovereignty as a violation of the UN Charter. Iran wants a clear, internationally enforced agreement that closes the door on any future pretext for US or Israeli attacks. Can the US and Israel possibly accept such terms? It is highly unlikely. We already see a firm rejection from Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has stated unequivocally that this war must have a clear winner and a clear loser. His stated goals are the complete elimination of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's power and a total end to Iran's pursuit of weapons of mass destruction and its missile program. Netanyahu's reaction to President Abbas's conditions has been to double down on the goal of regime change. For Israel, the objective is not just to degrade Iran's military, but to overthrow the Islamic Republic itself. He has framed this as a moment for the Iranian people to rise up, with the implicit backing of US and Israeli forces, to establish a new government that would bring peace to the Middle East. He has directly addressed the Iranian people, urging them to seize this opportunity to rid themselves of a regime he labels as terrorist and one that kills its own people. President Trump has echoed this sentiment, declaring that the United States is winning the war by systematically destroying the Iranian regime's military capabilities, its navy, air force, and missile defense systems. He has stated that the US is completely destroying the terrorist regime in Tehran and will not allow it to continue governing Iranian territory. This rhetoric, a direct response to Iran's conditions and the new leader's threats, suggests that Washington is committed to total victory, not negotiation. The Iranian conditions, which project an image of a victorious future, have only galvanized the US and Israel. On the night of March 12th, Israel launched a massive new wave of airstrikes, using hundreds of fighter jets to bomb targets across Iran, especially in Tehran. On March 13th, Donald Trump announced that over 200 key Iranian military targets had been hit in the previous 24 hours. He also reiterated his threat regarding the Strait of Hormuz, vowing to destroy all Iranian positions in the Persian Gulf if Tehran attempts to assert sole control. While the US Navy claims to have destroyed over 60 Iranian warships and asserts control over the strait, the situation remains precarious. Iran has reportedly deployed 6,000 sea mines, hindering its naval movements in the Gulf of Oman. The threat of Iranian missiles fired from the coast also makes transiting the strait highly dangerous. Trump has declared that the world will not allow Iran to control this international waterway. If the war cannot be ended on these terms, can a diplomatic mechanism be used to bring it to a close? A diplomatic solution seems unlikely unless one side achieves a decisive military victory. The current dynamic is a zero-sum conflict. A ground invasion by US and Israeli forces could tip the balance, but it carries immense risk. Neighboring countries like Iraq, Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan have been reluctant to allow their territory to be used for a ground invasion. This leaves a seaborne assault or an operation to capture the capital, Tehran, as potential, albeit extremely difficult strategies. Such an operation would involve seizing airports to fly in troops and quickly declare a new government. If the US and Israel manage to topple the regime, the IRGC would become, in effect, a rebel force, and a protracted bloody insurgency could follow. If a ground war fails to achieve regime change, the alternative diplomatic path would be to take the fight to the UN. The US and Israel could attempt to have the Islamic Republic of Iran's government declared illegitimate, remove its seat at the UN, and impose even more crippling international sanctions. As President Trump stated on March 13th, his administration already considers the current regime a terrorist regime that they are actively destroying. However, even if Iran's military capabilities are devastated, a diplomatic solution that forces a change of government in Tehran would be unprecedented. The war has entered a critical and highly volatile phase, with the opposing sides holding irreconcilable objectives. One demands a surrender that recognizes its victory, while the other is committed to the other's complete annihilation.